Hello, and welcome to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast with Astrologer Shelley Overton. Hi, it's Shelley Overton, and you're listening to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast for September 24th, 2020, and I welcome you. I'm excited to be here. We've got a lot to go over. I just spent the last 10 minutes going over some astrology, so I had information to give you that's accurate and right in front of me. So anyway, I'm an astrologer in Orlando, Florida, and my website is angeliczodiac.com if you're interested in a reading. So we're going to go over what's going on in the sky this week and what happened this week, and also what we can expect. So let's just get started. I've got the Ruth Bader Ginsburg charts up here. I've got next Monday's full moon in Aries, and I've got what's going on in the sky now. So currently we have Mercury at 27 degrees Libra, and he is opposite in the sky to Mars at 27 Aries. So what's happening? Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll get to that in a minute. But currently, Mercury and Mars in Aries are opposite each other. So there is a battle of ideas and action. That's what we're feeling right now. And of course, this always plays out in politics because that seems to be the venue that a lot of this energy gets expressed in. And so Mercury at late degrees of Libra means there's a balance and a diplomacy, but it's wrapping up the idea of what we need to do in partnering, in diplomacy and communications. And fun fact, we are about 1 day away from the Mercury shadow for the next retrograde, which will be real fun. I shouldn't say that every time I talk about Mercury. I have issues, but we're going to just try and give you the information without getting any displeasure from it. Okay, so Mercury in Libra, ideas, like I said, balance, love, money, cooperation. And he's opposite Mars at 26 degrees. Now, Mars is now retrograde. So Mars is pulling back energy and going back over where he's been before. I'm just going to go to my ephemeris here on the bed next to me and get this chart. And Saturn's at 25 too. That's interesting. So basically, Mars is squaring Saturn on top of opposing Mercury. So that's a pretty strong T-square energy. And so that means that what is coming to mind is everything I was going to talk about anyway. It's a battle for the seat of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, basically. And so since I'm not grounding really well with the current chart, I'm going to save that for a minute. And I'm going to go over to Ruth Bader Ginsburg on this and talk a bit about her. Ruth was the Supreme Court Justice that just died last Friday on the 18th. That's the date I put down. And I don't have the exact time of birth because when you enter things into a search engine, they tell you what they want to tell you. And what they want to tell you is the news stories and the fight and battle over her seat. So there was no information on her death time. So I gave it, I think, an early morning time of around 10:30 a.m. But what's going on for her when she was born was that I assigned her an Aries rising. There was no time of birth in my research. And that means that she had a strong drive. And interestingly, like more of a masculine purpose, the ability to be direct and driven. And part of the reason I gave her an Aries rising was because when I looked at her, and a lot of times, your rising sign influences the way you appear to people. So I gave her an Aries rising because she had a widow's peak, and a widow's peak is where the hair kind of comes down in the front. And that's an Aries hallmark with the ram horns coming out of the peak. So that's what I did for Miss Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And that gives her Mercury in Aries and near her first house. It's actually in the 12th. I put it for 6:54 a.m. Brooklyn, New York. And her birthday is March 15th, 1933. So the sun had just rose. It was early in the morning. So she's a Pisces, 24 degrees Pisces, and Venus at 14 Pisces. North node was at 7 degrees Pisces, and 17 Virgo is the south node. 7 degrees. 17 Virgo is for Jupiter. 7 degrees is their south node. So she had a cluster of Virgo planets, which is the sign of service in the zodiac. It fell, but with the Aries rising, the Virgo fell in her 5th house of children, and it is romance and creativity, but Virgo is a feminine sign, a feminine energy. And I always think of Mother Teresa when I think of a quintessential Virgo, because she was of service and she was so focused on the energy of almost mothering people that is a strong energy, like a parent energy, more than just mother, but more parenting and guidance and like a teacher. So her Mars was at 5 degrees, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, not Mother Teresa. Ruth Bader Ginsburg's Mars was at 5 degrees Virgo, right next to the south node, which means she came in with a very strong purpose associated with children and women's issues and health issues. Sorry about that. Because Virgo rules the house of work and health, and also teachers. So that's just part of her nature, and it's how she expressed a great deal of her energy, and really was how she took care of aspects of her career. Jupiter fell in her house of work and health, and so it's an expansion. It's expanding the energy of femininity and feminine energy. And so it's retrograde, which means there was a self-effacing or an introspective quality. It wasn't like she was completely devoid of the ability to appreciate the drive for service. Direct Jupiter in Virgo would have been more helping others because it somehow helps yourself. And so having Jupiter and Virgo in the house of work is a strong energy in retrograde about having that humility. And she also had Uranus, the sign of independence and eccentricity, but really the independent spirit, independent minded around her sense of self in the 1st house. So Uranus is how we are seen differently. And of course, part of her legacy is that she was different. There weren't very many women on the Supreme Court when she was appointed. And so the path that she took was a path that was less traveled by women. And so she was the one who stood out, the one who was an alternative type of person. And that is shown with Uranus in the 1st house. You really couldn't get her to change her mind if she wanted things a certain way. Uranus is a very steadfast, stubborn energy that will go to the ends of time defending the rights of humanity, but also the right to be who you are. And then Mercury in Aries, again, how she communicated was forthright and very clear. And she probably, I mean, we haven't heard much about this, or I haven't read anything about it, but she probably stepped in goo with her mouth sometimes, because Aries will just jump in and do it. And Mercury, of course, is the way we communicate and how we think. So she was a very strong leader of action, and her words created action, and that was part of her makeup. Having a Venus at 14 Pisces and Sun in Pisces also, she had the low boundaries, and Venus represents women. So again, Aries rising puts Pisces in the 12th house, which meant that subconsciously she's driven by women's issues. and the sun is her sense of self. And Pisces is an energy of low boundaries when it comes to emotions and energy of other people. So she was very capable of reading other people's energy and knowing where she stood psychically. But interestingly, she also had the moon at 9 degrees of Scorpio. So again, if you've listened any length of time, you know my moon's in Scorpio. It's at 12, so it's only 3 degrees off of her moon. And that means that there's a passion in her for justice. And it fell in her house of justice, the eighth house of government and law. And so she was like a mother figure as a lawyer. She had and expressed that energy of motherly concern and motherly knowingness. But in Scorpio, she sought solutions. She was seeking solutions for women and mothers in her path, so to speak. So her drive within the court system had a number of wins in and around women and children. And then she had Saturn at 12 degrees of Aquarius. So Aquarius is, again, alternatives. It's Uranian ruled, and it's in the house of money or community from career. And so that's the 11th house if you're following along at home. And it is a very strong drive to create structure around community and be a part of the collective human experience. And that's a major life drive for her. So there is a square in her chart between Saturn and Aquarius and the moon in Scorpio. So what happens when we have that in our natal charts is we have kind of differing drives around the importance of things. So Saturn is career, in Aquarius is entrepreneurial or very independent. So in her case, she worked within the structure of government, which in her chart, structure and government is her career house. But Saturn is how it's expressed out. And in the 11th house, it's about community and about humanitarianism. And so squaring her moon, the moon means that she would have oppositions from tradition, or she would have oppositions around the people in that community, in the lawyer community. And she was the standout person because of her gender, and gender issues are also Aries. Aries, it's sex and sex drive and masculinity, but it talks to me, it speaks to gender along with Aquarius. So definitely having the underdog is Saturn and Aquarius, and rallying for the underdog. Mars in Virgo, a strong drive for healing and for teaching and to understand and to express in ways that help people to understand. Because her Mars was only 2 degrees away from her South Node, she came in with kind of a Mother Teresa energy about her. She had, oops, sorry about that. Both women were very strong in their fields, and both were extremely petite in their stature as well, but very big women at the end of their lives. Her Neptune is also just the other side of the South Node, which again, it's the past lives, what we bring in from the past. And Neptune is past karma, it's wisdom that we've gathered, and it's how we do have lower boundaries, but also idealize a situation wherever it is in a chart. And Neptune in Virgo, in her 5th house of children, she idealized the role of helping and being of service in education, in parenting, in the structure of parenting, and the health and what is the term I'm looking for? In the field of, I want to say being like, oh, I've got the word right on the tip of my tongue, like a role model. Someone that people can look to and know is a very wise person. So my screen just went black. Come on, wake up. Apple has been giving me the hardest time in the last 2 weeks. I swear, both computers and phones. So I was mentioning it to someone about, hey, is there a new release? Because they always mess with my phone. It seems like it's every 3 months or 4 months, they release something new, and then my phone doesn't work properly. And now it's also my computer. So, oh, well, I'm sure there's coding that is kind of like a little, for lack of a better word, like an Easter egg or a little bomb in the thing that sets it off. Anyway, that's that's my own, I guess, paranoia. Maybe, I don't know. I don't think it's paranoia. I think it's intuition. Anyway, yeah, so she had a very powerful chart. She had clusters of planets on both sides of her chart, and the Virgo side, and then also the Aries Pisces side opposing. And so really she had a strong concentration of energy around knowledge and wisdom and sage energy and taking action. So she really did live out her chart in a very strong way and in a good way. And then her death came at a time when Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn were all clustered. And she's been dealing with these issues of health for the last few years, more pointedly. And the day she passed, Moon was within 7 degrees of Mercury in Libra, scales of justice. And just had, according to this, like I said, that I just put it in for 10:30 a.m. I don't know what time she was deceased, what time she passed on. But Chiron, the wounded healer, was 3 degrees above the horizon, just into the 12th house of endings at that time. She had Uranus just into the house of body, which is kind of an energy of the unexpected. And even though we knew she was not really healthy, she passed kind of out of the blue, as far as I'm concerned, in some ways. And then, oh, thank you. That was my daughter coming in to give me, hopefully, a winning lottery ticket. And so, yeah, she had Venus conjunct the midheaven at that time, and Vesta, which is structures and the keeper of the information. So Vesta was conjunct the midheaven, which absolutely, in my opinion, speaks to her. And then Venus, and she was a woman of fame, which those two energies together at the midheaven signified. So anyway, it was a moment that she was ready to go. And now we've got this battle for her seat, and which kind of brings me around to what's going on now. I'm going to take a real quick sip. Sorry about that. I'm getting a little parched here. And I'll mute you guys so that you don't have to listen to me gulping. I guess you heard me anyway, because the mute didn't work. Oh well, I'll mute it later. Okay, so what's going on now in Orlando, Florida? Anyway, we have an Aquarius rising, and like I said, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And the moon is at 11 degrees, coming up on a 17-degree Jupiter. And so into tonight, there is definitely this energy of culmination of some stories around what's going on. It's a significator of an event. When we look to how things will turn out, we look at the moon, at least I do, through horary astrology. And having the moon come up on Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn is significant. It's significant every month until these entities separate and start to move to the new energy, which is Aquarius. So until December, September, October, November, the moon in Capricorn is going to have some strong feelings coming out. We'll see significant events happen every month at that time. So, 28 days from now, we're with the 24th. So October 24th, November 24th, significant times. And I think I mentioned last week that later on in November, we're really going to start to see all this energy ramp up, because Saturn will be going direct at that time. Jupiter will be direct, which he is now already. And then Neptune goes direct on the 28th. Yeah, about the 28th of November. And so that can also shift energy. There will probably be some And it seems like every year for the last few years I've said this, around the holidays we have storms, and it seems like they hit on the holidays. So of course the pandemic has made a big difference in how we travel, but coming up on Thanksgiving this year, there's a shift of Neptune. So definitely there's going to be flurries or some type of weather event or water or snow at that time. But anyway, let's get back to this week. I know I told you I'm a little bit fuzzy in the brain right now. So, so I am probably going to be a little bit all over the place. Oh my goodness, look at that. I'm going to move you guys there. I don't want to have to look at that. Anyway, so having the energy in the sky right now of Mercury opposing Mars, we're seeing the battles. We're seeing a disintegration. That's the word that came to mind. It's a disintegration of energy, and that there is an absolute battle going on between the thought processes and the actions being taken. So we already have Mars retrograde, but Mercury about to retrograde means we are going back over this energy. With the shadow period, we reevaluate things. So as of tomorrow, the 25th, and for the rest of, well, 2 weeks actually, we're going to be really seeing the themes and issues that we're going to have to review during the Mercury retrograde time. And Mercury goes retrograde in October 13th, I believe it's right there. I'm going to double check the exact time for y'all. It's my nod to the south that I'm in here. Yeah, the 13th at 9:05 p.m. Eastern and 6:05 p.m. Pacific. And I'm not sure what the math is for GMT, but it's either 4 or 5 hours later. So I'm guessing 4 hours later. Okay, so yeah, I would say, I'm sorry. Again, I'm going to just apologize my way through this just because of late afternoon sleepy. Okay, probably have to cut that out. Venus in conjunct to Neptune. Not a fun energy. Inconjuncts are basically a stressor. It means that Venus is in the spotlight. There's feminine energy, being more brash, being more outspoken, and it's in conjunct to Neptune. So it'll be really interesting to see how long it takes the powers that be to get a nominee for this seat. Because, you know, if it happens anytime soon and it's a woman, she's going to get a lot of difficulty with that nomination, because the Venus energy right now is not in positive cooperative energy to Neptune. Yeah, and there's an inconjunct to Pluto as well. So, I mean, that doesn't bode well if someone's nominated soon. And my son told me yesterday there was a woman who is potentially at the top of the short list nominated. So I don't know. We'll have to look and see. Maybe next week I can talk about the potential nomination. Yeah, this is probably not going to be. Oh, I'm touching the wrong computer. Oh my God. Even whatever. Okay. I'm not drinking, even though there was a bottle of wine over there. I'm not drinking. I'm just tired. Okay, so what I was going to talk about is Monday's full moon in Aries. So what's going on is we have Mercury in the sky in conjunct to the moon that day. So the moon will be in Aries and Mercury will be in Scorpio. So this is a battle day. That's my guess, is that's when we're going to get the nominee announced, Monday. But the inconjunct is Mercury in Scorpio, feminine energy, inconjunct to the moon, which is also feminine energy, but it's the desire, it's the security level. Aries is brash. So we're going to get that. And then over here is the sun at 9 degrees, and he is in conjunct to Uranus. So we have this parallel going on, okay? So Mercury, moon, Uranus, and the sun. What happens is they make a cross. So they're parallel and they also cross each other with oppositions. So we've got this very intense aspect going on with the full moon, and they're going to be, I don't want to say a hot mess. And then at the bottom of the chart is Moon and Uranus. Between the two is Aries. And then opposite them are Mercury and the Sun. And so we look at the total picture of Mercury, communications, thought, and ready to battle. Because Scorpio is the warrior. In the Mercury energy in Scorpio is looking for the solution actively and very much willing to speak the battle or argue for the battle. This is, anybody with Mercury and Scorpio would be really good in courtroom, like dramas. And then Sun in Libra is the diplomat. There's somebody there who feels like they want to insert themselves into this mess and be the voice of reason. But there may be a self-interest in this because it's the ego. Ego is the Sun. And also it's the leader. So my guess is the Sun in Libra may appear to be Trump because it represents the leader. In foreign politics, it's the leader of the country. And obviously, if you're in England, it could either be Boris Johnson or the Queen for whatever they're going through at that time on the full moon. And then the moon in Aries, again, home, but potentially thinking of selling or thinking of taking some strong action towards construction. This is not necessarily the same scenario for politics. This is really more of a personal note that the moon in Aries gives us more of that childlike coming in, the youth energy and the birth. And so it can be the tantrums, the emotional tantrums going on, but it's also a battle around the home. Could be a siblings battle or aunts and uncles, mom and dad siblings or children siblings with this energy. And then Uranus opposing Mercury, glitches in phones and technology, but it's also glitches potentially in the markets around those same things. Like Monday full moon in Aries could even mean that there is an outage on the technology side of the stock market or market somewhere in the world because there is an opposition with technology, but it's also around financial markets. It could be miscommunications with loved ones or with someone special in your life or a marriage partner. And then we have the inconjunct of Uranus to the Sun, which is just the friction. I'm sorry, but it is just this friction energy where we are going to battle it out because we are stubborn and want to. And it may be nothing more than that. The Sun is about balance, so you're acting on behalf of wanting to keep things balanced, but it's because your own sense of need says, I don't feel good about this. And then Uranus is going to argue because Uranus is a contrarian, and he's in Taurus, retrograde now, going back over the old story and what we've envisioned, what we've had ideas about for something significant associated with a broader picture, with the collective, with maybe even a humanitarian bent, or how we look at what good money can do for individuals. This brings to mind my son. He's in banking, on a sector of banking, and we were talking about that last night. And he deals with customers and talking on the phone right now. It's a brand new job and he's getting used to doing all that. And I'm so sorry about this. I don't know why this is getting so blurry. Oh well, it's that Mercury opposition. So Uranus is about thinking of creative new ways to interact, but a retrograde may mean that we feel like our hands are tied, like we're not getting what we need. And I know he's been frustrated a lot and probably coming to a head towards next Monday where the people he deals with are shutting him down and not really helping him the way he needs to be helped. So yeah, it's conflicting energy, and it makes us very frustrated. Monday is going to be probably a highly frustrating moon. It is the harvest moon. And so, of course, it's the closest full moon to the fall equinox. And I was just thinking about this the other day. I've actually got some acorns on my windowsill because, I picked them up while I was walking, and I'm like, yeah, harvest time. The acorns are starting to fall. And now we're getting into autumn and things are getting cooler. Uranus absolutely can cool things down. Opposite Mercury, could be some windy weather. Mercury in Scorpio is water, so there's definitely opportunities for water. I would say this is going to be a mixed bag when it comes to like the fires. I honestly haven't looked to see where we are at with the fires, but Mercury opposite Uranus is energy around earth and water, so more rain, I would say. But then the crossing energy, so this is probably going to split the country like it has been, is one side of the country is going to do the water and the earth, and the other half is going to be the air and the fire. And it's continuing. And so it's like they both need what the other has. And so, yeah, we need to dry out the watery area because we don't have enough. And then the fire area needs water to put out the fires. And that's concentrated on Monday. And let's see if there's any solution. Well, Mars falling between Moon and Uranus, and there he's square to all of the cluster stellium of Capricorn. So it is really a contentious energy, with the one exception being Uranus sextile to the stellium in Capricorn. And that actually is a very cooperative energy. So I'm going to look at this and say that there is likely going to be a bit of a respite and maybe even some rain on the West Coast come the full moon. I'm just going to look at it a little closer. Yeah, the moon, because later the next day, the moon will be joining up with Mars. And so that's like concentrated home energy that's fiery. And so it's probably going to hit a peak, and then we're going to go to Earth. And honestly, Earth, you can tamp out the fires with Earth, and then you have that Neptune sextile to the stellium. So really, I see Neptune and Mars kind of battling it out with the stellium. And what that means is that Neptune is wanting to add the deep emotional sentimentalism and connectedness to. So in other words, you have what's going on in the Earth, and that can be the fires, or it can be anything. It can be shifts of authority. It can be the movement of people from here to there. Anything that's going on a global scale right now, that is influenced by Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn, and Neptune. So Neptune is in cooperation with it, and it's trying to awaken us to the knowledge that there is a bigger picture and a deeper meaning. That's what Neptune in Pisces always, always, always does, is try to show us how we are all connected. And so, yeah, Capricorn right now, the energy in Capricorn is really about shift. It's about shifting us in our ideology, shifting the physicality, shifting our view of dogma, of what we have stuck our heels into the ground on, and move us towards something that's more awakening for each individual, but also cooperative for the collective, which is where we're heading. And see, Uranus and Taurus, he's just going to be playing with money and love for the next 7 years. So he goes forward in the early degrees. It's an initiating energy. He goes retrograde in the early degrees. He revises and reviews. It's something new, let's go over it. Something new, let's go over it. Then he gets from 10 to 15, or no, 10 to 20. And that's when he really sets in the rules and the structure of what the fixed segment of his theme. And so it's going to be money and love. And so the middle 10 degrees from 10 to 20 are going to be about shifting into new love relationships and having your own autonomy and learning the lessons of autonomy within love and within new money systems. So that's very close. Like he's retrograde at 9 now. I think he was already at 10. So he got into the fixed degrees before he went retrograde. When he goes direct, I believe he goes direct at the end of the year in December. No, he goes in January. Like I think it's the second week, first or second week of January, he goes direct. Then he will get into 10 degrees to 20 about February next year. And so next year is going to be a big year of new money systems. I've already noticed it's really interesting with the pandemic, and what happened with lockdowns is nobody's using coins. And I see these signs everywhere, there's a shortage of coins. I think because people aren't using it because it's fiat currency, they don't want to touch it and pass things. So everyone's holding on to that, which means now we don't have it. But in the larger scheme of things, Uranus and Taurus is saying, yeah, we don't need those because we're moving to technology with currency. And that's what Uranus does in Taurus, is it says it's going to probably phase out at some point. Not something I particularly want, but it is my prediction based on Uranus and Taurus, that we're going to make our way towards new systems of banking, new systems of money management in the world. And that's really going to start to kick in when we get to the fixed segment. Right now, we're just starting to get the hint of it and the ideas with cryptocurrency, things like that. But then the markets are going to, of course, with Saturn and Aquarius in the end of the year and for the next 2.5 years, we're going to have to create more rooted systems and structures around the finances. And then as we move to the last degrees, that's when we really start to understand more of a sentimental side of currency, the watery energy, as we move closer to, oh no, I take it back. It isn't watery, it's air again. Interesting. So we're going from earth to air. When Uranus gets out in the last 10 degrees, he'll go into an air sign. So it's going to be even more energy around technology and ideas. So that's when, I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if we just have, you know, credit cards won't be credit cards and maybe they'll just be little chips or something. It'll be much different. I mean, I don't know, I'm getting a picture of like things painted on your nails or something. Like, you never know. It's an eccentric, unusual, creative, inventive energy. But yeah, he'll be going closer towards that technology, air energy of Gemini. But in the last degrees, that is the Capricorn energy, and it's mutable, but it's about changing the system for good. So about 7 or 8 years from now, really look for money systems and the way we interact with love and commitment being completely shifted. That could potentially even have something to do with marriage. I don't know. I would say probably more so Uranus and Libra, but it is couples shift. And this computer is having its moments. I keep seeing like this fuzzy, blurry area right there. Anyway, if you can follow along with this and have gone this far, thank you very much. I applaud you. It's been kind of an unusual day. Also, I didn't do the podcast yesterday because I was taken out to Disney Springs, which is the shopping area over at Disney Orlando Resorts over there. And it was very nice. It was a birthday gift. So I apologize for this getting up a little bit later, but you know, it may not be. It might be tonight, which sometimes I get it Thursday night. So anyway, the video should be up on time. If you are interested in supporting more videos, which I really appreciate, check out the Patreon page, which is Angelic Zodiac, patreon.com Angelic Zodiac, which is in the description. Please like, comment, and subscribe below or over here. I'm not sure where it ends up. Probably down there. And then, yeah. Anyway, that's it. Thank you for coming in this week and having patience with me. Once in a while, my brain fog takes over. But I do enjoy sharing astrology with you, and I hope you stick with it. And, you know, anyway, take care. Peace. Bye. Yuck. This junk over here. Yuck. That was all right. Hello. Hi, it's Shelley Overton, and you are listening to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast.
You have been listening to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show. If you would like to get a private reading with Shelley, please contact her through angeliczodiac.com or at so@angeliczodiac.com. You can arrange a reading through the Angelic Zodiac page at facebook.com as well. Check out Angelic Zodiac on Instagram for up-to-date information on events, discounts, blogs and planetary transits at Angelic Zodiac 1 on Instagram. If you would like to see Shelley's art, shelleyoverton.com, or for astrology art, go to astroart.net. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Other music will be credited within the show. Advice given in the program is intended for entertainment purposes only. Join us here next week for more of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast. You can find us on iTunes and Google Play, and where podcasts are accessed.